Bolt your windows. Lock your doors. Check your closets. Look under your bed. And then prepare yourself. For it's another episode of Dark Knight of the Podcast. Whoa!
Take me to church. I worship like a dog at the shrine of your lies. I tell you my sins so you can sharpen your knife. Offer me my deathless death. Oh God, let me give you my life. Troy, take me to
church.
We've had that in us for a couple of weeks.
I just let you go. I let you roll with it. I know we said we were going to go in together, but I just let you roll with it because nobody wants to hear me sing. But you know what?
They want to hear me sing. They really want to hear that.
They after 170, almost 170 episodes, they're demanding it. Like if you don't start an episode out with a song, listeners are going to throw a fucking fit. That's what's they expect it, Roger. Every week you have to come up with a different song, a different dance number to introduce the episode. And I mean, you took us to church by picking this fucking movie. Let me tell you. Oh,
literally, yeah.
I had never seen this film, The Church. We're just getting right into it. We're discussing 1989's The Church, which directed by one Michele Soavi, who directed one of my, probably, the more I think about it, it is probably my favorite 80s slasher film. And it's definitely probably my second favorite slasher film of all time, right behind Black Christmas, if you want to count that as a slasher film. And it is Stage Fright, a.k.a. Aquarius, a film that me and you covered, Roger, way back. I looked, episode 6. Episode 6, yes.
Wow. I'm so happy you specifically mentioned that for a few reasons. But I'll say, Troy, that was a film I had never seen, Stage Fright, before we covered it. And I would say that's entered my top 5 favorite slashers of all time. The theatricality. How can I say no to that level, that grand scale of theatricality? And just the sumptuous visual elements that make that film work, which are oftentimes at play here in The Church. Like, I've got plenty to say about The Church. My complaints, though, don't really fall in the realm of like how this film looks. It looks, truthfully, it looks exactly as you would expect a piece of like Italian horror cinema of that era to look, which is, it's quite enticing visually. It's quite stimulating, great locations. It's a weird fucking movie, but I had never seen this film. I had wanted to for quite a long time, because it has always been acknowledged as initially conceived as a follow-up to the Demons series, which you know me. I love Demons. Sign me up. Any motherfucking day of the week, I'll watch Demons, Demons 2. And so knowing that this even had ties or roots into the Demons series was very appealing for me. But this is a common thing. Like, there's so many movies, especially foreign cinema from this era, where things were either conceived to be a sequel and they broke it off and they did their own thing, or a movie was in no way related to a series, but they found something weird that tied it together. Then they tied it in and made it a sequel. I mean, these films, they're not very picky and choosy when they decide how these storylines progress for a lot of these more renowned foreign, specifically Italian pieces of horror cinema. It's the loose strings here that I think really are the downfall of a lot of these films, especially as they do become trilogies, series, or more. And the thing about this movie is it feels very much like they were starting to come up with an idea that really was never fully baked. It never fully cooked. There is a great concept here. When you sit down and you read the storyline of The Church and what's at play here, I'm sold. Synopsis alone, I'm sold. A fucking massacre that happened centuries ago, in which the bodies of these people are buried, and then they build a church upon it to hide it, and that church becomes possessed and eventually, brings forth some force of evil. I mean, like, it's tale as old as time. We've seen it done before, but like this is truly right up my alley. But as this film progresses, like what a weird experience this was. The church is a lot of things, but so much of it is just not explained. I think the greatest downfall of this movie is the fact that it is oftentimes incoherent, confusing, and things just feel very, I use this word a lot, but disjointed. This whole film feels very disconnected from how the characters are brought together, to how certain situations unfold, to how major events are handled and mishandled. It just feels sloppy. And it's weird because I've heard a lot of mixed reviews about this film. And honestly, the middle of the road reviews here that I've gotten from either people love it or they hate it, it makes sense for me that this is completely like a right in the middle. Like this movie is really good in some ways, but really bad in other ways. I just can't put my finger on what they were really going for with this final edit, though. You know, this is a weird film. I'm excited to discuss it with you. But boy, this is a strange piece of cinema.
It is definitely odd. I had, upon first viewing, I had a really hard time getting into it for some reason. And I've mentioned that with other films that we've covered before. Sometimes a film just doesn't initially grab your attention or initially hook you. This is one of the films that I was just like, oh my God, I don't know about this. I was just overwhelmed with everything that was being thrown at me, and being an Italian film produced by none other than Argento himself, there is a lot of odd. Let's put it out there. Odd dialogue, super odd character interactions.
Weird.
Yes, and it just became. I was like, I'm not sure what they're going for here. I will say visuals. There's some striking visuals. There are moments that really, really just kind of caught me off guard. We one involving a subway that comes out of nowhere. I'm like, what the fuck was that? I don't know. But and the ending is fine. I think you build everything up to like this one specific set piece, but the ending itself, like I was so confused about things were happening, but like the kids were still playing like tag after just seeing a woman get impaled by it's all really odd. There's no, like I said, there's no connection between what's going on and the characters. But I do appreciate you get some familiar faces. You mentioned Demons. The one of the lead actresses from Demons is in this film. The lead final girl from Stage Fright, Barbara Capesti, is the lead, I guess, female in this film. So I did appreciate seeing kind of the crossover. But yeah, I mean, it's at the end of the day, like I don't really know how I feel about the film. It's definitely not the best Italian cinema dealing with zombies or demons. Demons is miles better than this film, way more entertaining. I think we get into it, and let's try to make some rhyme or reason of what we're thrown here, which is on the surface seems convoluted, but really is not when you get down to it.
Yeah. Let's dive in. Before we jump into the church, Troy, it's been a minute since we dropped an episode. Anything new, anything good you want to share with our lovely listeners before we get into the meat and bones of our title today? Anything exciting in your life? What are you listening to? What have you seen? Is there anything you've maybe covered on a Patreon episode of interest?
Well, you know what? We recently dropped a Patreon episode where we discussed our thoughts on Final Destination Bloodlines. So
Yes.
if you want to hear our initial thoughts on that, you can definitely join our Patreon. It's super cheap. Like literally you can join it for $2 a month, and it helps us just cover the expenses involved with the podcast hosting service, the this wonderful platform that we use to record that makes us sound way better than we probably actually do. But yeah, that was a fun discussion. It was a fun discussion. Yeah. So I would love if you're curious, check that out. Other than that, I'm on summer vacation. I did go to the Clown Motel
Yes.
last Thursday. That was supposed to be a whole summer little vacation where we went to Reno and we're going to do all this fun hiking and kayaking. Unfortunately, that did not pan out because my partner Thursday morning broke his foot. And getting out of bed in the middle of the night to go to the restroom, he somehow just like stepped wrong and twisted it and fell, so broke like 3 bones. And
What?
yeah, yeah. Trooper though, because he still went to the Clown Motel with me. He's like, "No, I know how much you want to go. You got the room. We're gonna go." So we went. He was able to hobble around on crutches through the little cemetery for a little bit, but it was not the vacation or the little trip that we anticipated. But it was still a fun time to see it. No paranormal stuff. Kind of a rundown place. The rooms are definitely older. I didn't feel any paranormal stuff, but I did definitely. It's creepy. It's creepy to be surrounded by that many clowns. So it was a good time. It was a good time.
I know some of our listeners may be familiar with the Clown Motel because it's become a tourist destination, especially for, I would say, genre fans.
Uh-huh.
There's a renowned film series
There
based at the
is.
Clown Motel. So if you're a fan of that, I mean, I know you are. You seeked it out, so you must be a big fan. But you know what? Fan or not, I've seen a couple films lately that I really liked. I've seen a couple films lately I did not. I'm going to be really jumping into that Patreon a bit to break down a lot of movies because I've seen an array of films recently. I am done for my main portion of what I'm doing, editing meat. I have a lot more time on my hands than usual when it comes to like my weekends and being able to enjoy myself. And so, in preparation for starting a new shift with my job, which will be changing that, I have been seeing as much cinema as I possibly can. And there's been some really good films that have come out this year. And boy, have there been some films that did not sit well with me. And I'll tell all. I'll tell all on the Patreon. So I definitely think that's a big reason.
Save it for the Patreon. We need some content.
Yes.
Yeah,
we need some content.
I will hop on there and definitely discuss a few things. But yeah, so that's kind of what I've been up to. And now I got to watch The Church to be able to have this discussion with you regarding it. So you wanna
Lucky you.
dive right in?
Please. It's been a religious theme for me lately, apparently. We had Stigmata, now we have The Church. And I'm happy going into this. I'm happy that you did mention at the start the fact that like the ending, the finale. I think that the one thing about this movie that it is known for is that the ending is supposed to be pretty wild. You hear from a lot of people, even if they didn't love the movie, they say, but like, hold on for the ending. The ending is a payoff. And I think maybe I had my expectations set really high because I think coming into this, you're right. There's a lot of really strong visuals. This movie it does some really cool things with the demonic entities. But when you compare it up against a film like A Demons, which is just about a growing horde of monsters that eventually take over the movie theater or the apartment complex in the sequel, and become such a major component of that film. This is not that experience. Like, this film is relatively tame at the end of the day. I mean, this film has a few moments that are a bit shocking, but overall, there are long stretches of time where you're not getting a lot of horror-related content. And then luckily, the opening of the film I find pretty interesting and well constructed. There's a lot of really shocking visuals here. You got a really like heavily infused synth score, which is something you'd come to anticipate from this era, this genre. You have Asia Argento, whom is a welcome face within the genre for many reasons. As very young here, she's younger for sure, but she plays a somewhat interesting character. But we're starting with a period piece, and I think coming into that was handled well. This portion of the film is actually handled quite well. It's just a very minor aspect of what makes the church what it is.
Yeah, the film opens with basically how why the church is built in the first place, and it's a village massacre scene. We open with a bunch of Teutonic knights in these metal headgear that are really unsettling, charging into this village where I guess one of the villages or somebody points to this little girl who is supposed to be a witch, and one of the knights goes up to her, and she's kissing his feet. She knows this is going to be trouble. She's being very polite. She touches him. He takes off his helmet. What a fucking beautiful man, Roger. Oh my God.
Golden braid.
Yes. I was like, who the hell
Oh.
is this? And, she's like, oh, you're not going to hurt me, are you? And like, he grabs her face and like ends up crushing her head and killing her. And it is revealed that she does have a cross stigmata on her foot. And one of the knights is like, kill them all. And then we proceed to see a like 5-minute village massacre scene. People getting stabbed, heads getting chopped off, horses running over, kicking such head, people trying to hide. It's a village massacre scene to end all village massacre scenes.
It's pretty shocking. Like, it really is. It's pretty violent. The simplicity of that head crush, like, it really is just a matter of he squeezes and you see the blood squirt up from in his hand as he crushes the jawbone and the temple area of her head. And it is simple, but it's effective. It's a really cool moment. And, this whole stigmata aspect, there's a lot of things that are brought up in the dialogue here that I still don't understand. I mean, the story is loose. It's real fucking loose. It's simple. In some ways, I think the simplicity helps because I do think that the translation here is just one of the big problems. We're dealing with some really bad dubbing here. We've seen all different levels of quality of dubbing. We've heard many different horribly acted English performers dubbing over Italian films. This is among some of the worst. And what I would say is disappointing is, I remember from Stage Fright really liking Barbara. Is it Barbara Capusti? Is that right? Capisti?
Pesti, yeah.
Capesti, yeah. I really found her charming as the lead in Stage Fright, but I don't believe, is she dubbed in that movie? She's not, right? I don't think she is.
Think so.
So she's dubbed here, and I know this was like a trend where they basically just dubbed everybody, but Lord, how the dub jobs in this movie take away from the performances. I don't think there's anyone in this film that looks like they're not giving their all in their performances, or at least doing a somewhat competent job. But the voice acting in this movie is really terrible. And yeah, it just feels very disconnected. It's unfortunate because it really takes you out of the moment multiple times over the course of the movie.
Yeah, it's super flat. It's like the voice actors were just reading the script without in English without seeing what was even on screen, right? To react appropriately. It is really jarring, especially Asia Argento, when we'll talk about that character, but her dubbing is kind of really eyebrow raising. The whole character is eyebrow raising, and it's not her fault, but I was super confused with that character. But yes, this opening village massacre, I wouldn't say it's like brutal. It's not gory. We get a head decapitation. And let's stop there because I don't think this movie has really any disgusting gore that Italian flicks are known for. Like, you think about demons and just the pussiness of demons and the ickiness, the gooiness of Demons 2, Stage Fright's gory for a slasher film. This film is not, which surprised me. And so if you're going in expecting to see something like Demons in terms of gore, viciousness, you're not going to get it, unfortunately. And again, you are really right when you say there are long stretches of this film where nothing happens and you're just listening to a lot of really heavy dialogue. But yeah, back to this opening scene. This whole village is slaughtered because the knights think that they're all witches. They're told they need to bury the bodies immediately. And so there's a really unsettling scene of them just throwing these bodies into this giant pit. And then they see one of them moving, like a girl like lifting her hand up, and they're like, "Oh, you got to bury him fast. We got to bury him fast." So they literally start to bury these people. And the one old man is like, "They got to be hidden from sight for life. Nobody can ever see them because these are demons. And after they're buried, we need to bless this site and build a church on it. And it's a holy shrine that'll imprison the demons forever." So that's the basis of this movie. They slaughtered this whole town because they thought they were witches and demons. They throw them into this pit, bury them, and then the solution to keep their spirits at bay is to build a holy shrine, a church over the site.
I'm sold. Like if you're gonna throw that storyline at me and say this is what we're giving you, you're gonna open up with this elaborate sequence, all those bodies with their gaping mouths, that creepy hand reaching out. It's very eerie. There's a moment during the massacre where you see like a young woman put a baby in a basket trying to hide the basket, and the basket gets violently trampled by a horse. That baby was definitely killed. So like, yeah, I mean, it opens on a shocking note. It's not like they can't pull the gore off. They just choose to go a weird route with this movie. And it definitely does feel like the ending did not get finished. I'm just putting that out there right now. This film feels like it's building and building and building to something, and you do not really get what you think it's building towards, which is unfortunate. But this opening is really strong, and I think it sets the groundwork for what you expect to be a really fucking strong movie. There is this moment where you see this like mysterious Ewok-looking individual. One of the knights sees this individual, chases them atop a horse, tackles them to the ground, forces them to pull their hood back, and reveals it to be none other than, I believe, Asia Argento. So this is Asia Argento in what is like medieval times, present, aware, apparently killed. You see the spear like going to stab Asia Argento, and then it cuts away. I'm guessing this form of Asia Argento was killed because we do soon meet Asia Argento again as a teenager in what is at that time present day. And it just is very confusing because I'm guessing, are they implying that Asia Argento is like maybe lineage of this individual? Like, I am confused.
I was super confused too. That or she's reincarnated, because there's this weird moment at the end of the film where her present day character has a premonition or a flashback premonition of everything that happened, because she all of a sudden conveniently starts spilling out, exposition detail that she shouldn't know about what happened to the village. So I'm wondering, is she supposed to be reincarnated? It's the same girl, like, but it's the only time it's touched on in the film is like when you see her, and then you see her in a few minutes in the film, and then she has that exposition dump at the end of the film to explain to the reverend or the father what's going on and how she knows how this happened. It's again, it's mentioned, it's not explained. Like we're not given enough information to make any connection. But yes, we get several children killed in this opening scene. So, kudos to a film for having the balls to kill off children, because it does it in the end too. We get there's a lot of children that die in this fucking film. So that's our premise. The hole has been covered and a church has been built on it. And we pretty much cut to, we don't know how many years later, hundreds of years later, obviously, and it's present day, quote unquote. And we are now in the church, and the church is going through a restoration. You have Lisa, played by Barbara Capesti, who is like in charge of the restoration. They're trying to restore the beautiful, stonework and artwork in the church. And it just so happens that you have this new librarian named Evan who shows up to work for the first day. I was confused. I'm a librarian, I have a master's degree in library science. It's been my career for the past 11 years. I was not aware that churches hired librarians. And when he goes into the library, it's not like it's a massive library. It's literally the size of the office that I'm recording in. So I'm like, well, what is he? The church is paying this man to come in and manage a bedroom-sized room full of books? I was super confused. I don't know. So he sees Lisa. They introduce each other, and he asks her to have a cup of coffee. She's up on that scaffold thing, picking at the wall, and they move fast. Let me tell you, I was super confused about the relationship that these two get into, because they literally here in the next minute are like in a relationship. Like, did that confuse you? He's living with her all of a sudden, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? They had one cup of coffee together.
Pacing here is all over the place. Right? The story doesn't know like when to slow it down, when to speed it up, when it's giving you too much, when it's not giving you enough. I mean, there are so many major plot holes. Probably, and I mean this, it's out of all the films we've covered, this film probably has the most problematic plot holes for me as a viewer out of any film we've covered so far. Because the things, like, there are some movies where they choose to not explain something, and I'm like, okay, all right, that person's dead. I didn't see it, but they're dead. Like, I don't know how they got killed. It's a reveal. Fine, I'll go with it. There are major aspects of this story that I feel I needed to know what happened to result in like how the story is progressing, and I am not given that information. And it gets to a certain point where you kind of like just stop even trying. By the time the old broad is beating the bell with her husband's decapitated head, I'm just going to say it right now. I was like, arms in the air. I was like, well, story doesn't matter here. Nothing's explained. I don't know if people are becoming possessed. I don't know how. I don't know what the rules are. Are there rules? There's no rules in this church. But right now, you're meeting these characters. They're I guess falling in love, I suppose. She's very pleasant to look at with her warm face and her gentle smile. Again, her voice acting is really boring. Like, I mean, there are a lot of little moments where these two share interactions or dialogue or revelations with each other, and it just feels very, very stilted. And even when we're getting exposition that might be necessary, it's like, oh man, like I just don't want to listen to these two people drone on anymore because their delivery's so flat that it feels unenthusiastic. And so I kind of get lost in it. It just feels very bland.
Well, speaking of dubbing, so Mr. Evan goes into this library, and he's getting settled, and he hears something under the table is none other than Asia Argento herself, the character of Latte, who's playing with like jacks and shit. And okay, so she opens her mouth and the voice of a 50-year-old woman comes out. It was so fucking jarring when she first talked. I'm like, what the fuck? Not only that, I need to know how old is this child supposed to be, because on one hand, she's childlike enough to be under a table playing with jacks, but then 5 minutes later, she's out whoring it up at the nightclubs in downtown Paris. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? I was so confused.
She grows up right before our eyes in rapid. Maybe she is a manifestation of the girl from the beginning, and she's enchanted because she really, like, I see her go from the age of 7 to the age of probably 23 over the course of several days. It's really weird. Really weird. If you want to talk about bad dub jobs, let's talk about the Bishop, who I am convinced is dubbed by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. because like he sounds like his voice is in a blender. The warble in the Bishop's vocal like sounds so unnatural, and so every time it sounds like this. I couldn't stand listening to this man talk. It was so unpleasant.
Well, he's unpleasant. Like, there is not one likable thing about this man. He is the definition of a curmudgeon. He is the crankiest character I've ever encountered in my life. He comes in bitching about Evan being late his first day, which I get, but then he's like, get that brat out of here. What's she doing in here? And he is just like unpleasant the entire movie. And then you have to listen to him. Like you say the dubbing is, we cut to a church service and he's given this sermon about, fuck, Roger, I don't have the attention span to listen to a 5-minute piece of dialogue about a sermon. I just don't. It's not interesting to me. I don't know what the fuck he was talking about. He was given a sermon about the gospel according to St. Luke, some passage of the Bible from the book of Luke. I tuned out. I know it probably connected thematically to the film, but come on. I just couldn't. Because then I'm like Latte, because she's in the audience tuning out as well, putting on her fucking lipstick. Here, she's making the horror transformation pretty quickly because she's putting on that bright fucking red lipstick. And her dad, who is the sacristan of the church, talk about a fucking tool, like comes up and like slaps her when he sees that she's putting on this lipstick. But I'm like, girl, I don't blame you, because I could not listen to this old man. Not even in the comfort of my living room. I couldn't even imagine having to do it like when he's there.
He's a real joy to behold, the bishop. Brings a lot of levity to the film. No, he is a miserable curmudgeon is the right word. There's never a moment where you see him break. He lives a life of misery. Understandable. He's a bishop. I don't think there's a lot of joy to be had. One of the characters that I have the biggest issue with how they're handled, and I just say this because we see them in fleeting moments here, is there's a priest named Gus who ends up being, I guess, the lead. I don't know. Like, I mean, everybody else who you think are like the major characters, the way the plot develops, like the focus very much shifts, but they do not give this guy any attention for the first, I'd say, like 30 minutes of the movie. Like, you think that this individual is just background, like fodder, and all of a sudden you hit like the halfway point, even a little further maybe, and then the focus does shift over. But yeah, I thought that was just really weird decision to not give this character a couple more beats to establish their placement within the story.
Yeah. Father Gus, an interesting character, because like you said, when the film starts, he's not given a lot to do, but then by the end they kind of want to make him the hero, but then that even goes kerplunk with how the film ends and what happens to him. I'm like, okay, so you build this guy up, to be your hero, to be like the one that saves the day, and then it just like whoop. I don't know. So during this sermon, one of the workers gets Lisa because he needs to show her something. So he takes her down into the like cellar. There's a lot of like underground cellar tunnels in this church that are catacombs. That's the perfect word. They're really wet and drippy and things like that. So he takes her down and she shows her, we started to like, try to reconstruct this wall, but we think that there's emptiness behind it. So if we continue, it's going to collapse. So she immediately stops the restoration, and she's like, we can't do this. We have to notify the restoration committee or whatever that we need to stop the restoration because this could ruin the church. And then Evan comes down and he's like, oh, I thought we were supposed to have a cup of coffee. And she's like, well, look what's happened to the church. And he says, it's not your problem. Why are you worried about it? It's not your job. And then they just leave to get coffee. And literally from this moment on, these two are like fucking married. He moved into her house. They're together all the time. I was like, what? Did I miss something? Like, you let this man move in with you? Because there's that dialogue she has like in the next scene where she's like, oh, I'll leave the door unlocked for you. I'll probably be asleep, but I'll leave like, you let him move into your house. Like, what? You just met him.
He moves in because when he does finally see her house, he's like, oh, this is a very nice place. I think they start to be attracted to each other. I think she gives him like access. I don't know if he's moving in. Do I think it's
I think they move
way too rushed? With everything else that happens in this movie, Troy, you're probably right. Because there's no rhyme or reason to any of the rationale or any of the decisions that people are making.
Because, it's after, because they go back to her house this night, but I'm talking about in a few more scenes, the next morning, or she's leaving work and she's like, oh, well, I might be in bed by the time you get home, but I'll leave the door unlocked for you. I'm like, what? But yeah, I don't know. This relationship real fucking weird. I did not buy it. Like, I think these two have zero chemistry together at all. Like, I did not buy that they were attracted to each other immediately. I just was not. It just did not feel authentic at all.
Well, and you can tell that that's just not, and this is a criticism, but like for the filmmaker, that's not even a priority for them. I feel like the characters here are not prioritized at all, which again is a common misstep for a lot of Italian cinema of this era. But in certain films, it can be charming. It can be almost like part of the shtick. Here, it just feels very hollow. And so you got this whole bit where she's investigating this wall and she finds that piece of parchment. And this is why him being a librarian is important. Like, what the point you mentioned earlier, like, there is purpose for him to be a librarian in this environment. If they're doing a restoration and they're finding, if all these different books and everything that they're probably wanting translated, whatever it may be, there is purpose for him to be there, but it's never explained what they actually need him for. So he does feel very forced into this situation, this environment, but this is why they need him. This is the part of the story that he moves forward. She finds this parchment. He gets really excited. He's like, oh boy, this is right up my alley. This is exactly what I'm looking for. And so he even warns her. He says, like, let's not show the bishop right away. Let's figure out what this is first. And the bishop kind of overhears it, and he's like, "Oh, what are you doing down here?" And she has to kind of play it off that he's going to give her a ride home. But there's already an element of distrust in the bishop that's understandably established here, but really not explored further either. But yeah, so I mean, basically that's it. They got this parchment. It's of some importance. You can tell that Evan wants to translate it, look into it further, figure out what it is, where it came from.
Yeah. The bishop does walk in while they're having this conversation, and yes, she has to say that she was just in there to ask him to give her a ride home, which he does. He gives her a ride home, and he tells her during the car ride that he has been working all day trying to figure out this parchment, trying to decipher it, but he can't. But he did recognize the symbol on the parchment belonging to the Teutonic Knights, who basically were the knights that we saw at the beginning of the movie. He's like, they're legendary for their cruelty, and in fact, like, Hitler drew inspiration from them. That's how terrible they are. And now you cut to a scene with the bishop, reverend, this other reverend who I don't think he has, like, what, 2 words of dialogue. And so the bishop is giving him a quote that he can use, a quote in Latin that he can use for a sermon the next day. And it basically is translated to mean that the world is devils. And the reverend is like, that is a really weird thing to say, Bishop. Are you trying to say that the world identifies with the devils more than they do with God? And the bishop is like, absolutely. This bishop, I mean, I like the fact that he's not like, the one thing I do like about this bishop is, like, he is very in tune with, it's not everything is, I have to be holier than art. Yeah, he's very in tune with, like, the fact that evil exists and that people are definitely more drawn to evil, and more enticed by the devil and the negative things than they are up to the church. And he's very well aware of that.
Yeah, and they go into it a little bit further, and he says, "No God, no devil. The devil is everywhere." And I think that this is one of the themes, for at least for the bishop, that carries through, that I agree. I do like. I like that even though he is like the religious figurehead within this specific church, he seems to have a very cruel and cold outlook on on the punishment that certain individuals deserve, because this world is something that belongs to the devil. It's sinful. It's evil. And so yeah, he has a very dark outlook on it, and that does carry through. That is something of importance. That Sweet Father Gus comes in, and the priests, the reverend, the reverend and the bishop are cold with him. They're dismissive. They ask him to offer up some suggestions in Latin, and he says that he's not really very good at it, and so it seems almost like kind of prodding at him, making him feel less than. Yeah, and so it's again, that's something else I would like to explore further for him, because his character, he's interesting. I mean, he's a fucking archer. Like, you see him fucking shooting arrows at one point. Why do I know more about that? But right now, he's just kind of like this in the background, very much like a matter of unimportance. He does not seem like anyone who would rise up at the end of this film and become something focal at this point.
No, and there is a weird tension, particularly between the Reverend and Father Gus. There's just this weird tension in it, but it's never, ever, ever, ever explored. That night, we do see that Latte knows how to sneak out of the church. She goes down into the catacombs and she found a crack that exists in one of the walls that she's able to crawl out of. And we see her like strutting in a little mini skirt, strutting through downtown. She gets on the subway, and we know that this little bitch is going out to the clubs every night, sneaking out. So Evan and Lisa get to her place, very rustic looking. The first thing she wants to do is have a shower. She must feel really comfortable with this guy, because she's like, I'm going to have a shower. And so he still tries to work on this parchment because he brought it with him. And he asks her while she's in the shower if she's ever heard of this writer called Facinelli, who basically has written this book that hypothesizes that every Gothic cathedral has something of value buried under it, whether it's like the Table of Laws or something, all of them, because that, I don't know why else would there be, cellars and whatnot in these giant cathedrals. And so he asked her, what do you think could be buried under our cathedral? And he says, I gotta decipher what's on this parchment. And so she's very dismissive. Like, she doesn't really care. In fact, she comes out, she makes a joke. She's like, oh, all this sounds very Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. He's like, no, I'm being serious. And all of a sudden, like, out of nowhere, like, I don't know how it led to them literally on the bed getting ready to fuck. Like, it goes from them talking about what's buried under the cathedrals to literally they're in bed. He's on top of her, shirt off. They're getting ready to fuck. I'm like, what? Where did this come from?
Abrupt character development, character shift here. You're talking about their relationship and like moving way too fast. Up to this point, I thought there was some cute, mild flirtation. I did not know that these two were going to be boning it out this fast, like, at all. Like, all of a sudden, like, they're mounting each other and kissing, and you get basically what is an implied sex scene. That results in him getting shirtless. I mean, that's really all it is. I mean, and he looks fine. I mean, he's a handsome guy. He's pretty wooden, but he's definitely got an interesting look to him. Nerdy, blonde, but handsome. But yeah, all of a sudden, not only are they having this very sexual moment, but then they have this very deep pillow talk. And I think the thing that's weird to me is not only do they rush through this romance, but they're talking like people who know each other. They're communicating like they have a deep understanding of each other, and at this point, they would just be getting to know each other. And it just feels like, yeah, I don't understand, unless it's something where they're implying like they had known each other before this. But like, this is definitely the first time that they met at this job site, right? They don't have a history together, so it just doesn't make sense to me that they're so comfortable and casual, unless they're trying to imply that we're jumping every few days, every couple weeks, something like that. But I really don't think that's what they're doing here. Like, I really think we're just a couple days into these people knowing each other, and it just seems way too just casual, and just the type of dialogue they're having, it just doesn't feel natural at this point in their relationship, let alone sexually mounting each other on the bed. So here we are. He starts talking about having to find this stone with 7 eyes. He kills the moment. And acknowledging that he thinks that that there's a reason that there's only one tomb buried beneath the church. Like, normally there'd be a bunch of them, but he says there's only one there, correct?
Yeah, what I found funny is like in the middle of them having sex, he gets distracted by the parchment, and when he looks over, he notices there's that sterling silver lighter that's next to the parchment, and he notices when he looks at it that he can actually read. It reverses the letters that are written on the parchment, and he can read it. So he goes over and he reads it, and it says that you must find a statue with 7 eyes. And he's like, oh, I need to find a stone with 7 eyes, and he's all happy about it. Yes. And he mentions about this is our cathedral is the only cathedral that has no king buried under it. Why do you think that is? Maybe it's because they don't want us to dig in the cathedral.
I mean, interesting. You're getting breadcrumbs of interesting content that's moving the story along. It's just the shit that connects it is just kind of like incoherent at times. The story is just it's just kind of plodding along, but the things that happen around it just don't make sense. And so I feel like something got lost in translation here. Lottie returns from this outing, and begins to hear, this is something I like. There's this whole moment where she's in the church. I like when you're doing like haunting or possession films, some of my favorite moments are like the early onset of the possession, of implying there's something here. There's something more here. And I think this whole bit of hearing the sound of hooves tying into the horses from the opening sequence, like I think that's creepy. And there's this whole moment of Lottie walking up the staircase towards her bedroom and hearing the sounds of galloping. And I think it's really actually one of the creepier moments. It's so simple, but I like those moments. But it really is, again, it's something that these moments are few and far between. They really are.
Well, then she's snapped out of it by her dad, who like literally smacks her across the face out of nowhere and like, drags her and is like, how did you get out? How did you get out, you little whore, you liar? She's like, I was just downstairs praying. He's like, no, I can smell cigarettes and booze on your breath. And then you notice like that broad laying in the bed. I was like, who is that? She's not even getting up after this commotion. She's just like, I was like, I don't know.
That mother's complicit.
Yeah.
That mother is well aware that this man is beating his daughter, and she is just like, oh, come back to bed, Herman. I'm so tired. Oh, I hope they both die miserably. Well, I know he does, but I hope she goes down with the ship as well. I think she does. Next day, Lisa and Evan are lovers, and he gives her a fucking book. And she has another moment coming up here with these hooves. Like, this is something that I really thought they were going to do more of this, because now you have an even bigger moment coming up where Lisa hears these hooves and actually thinks they're starting to chase after her. And it's a well-constructed scene. And then it just kind of never gets brought up again. She doesn't talk about it. She's not like, oh my God, I just had this experience. Somebody talk to me about what happened. Like, it's just kind of ignored. And I think that it's just like a missed opportunity to start tying the story together,
Yeah, she's actually she has a physical reaction. It's almost like she's pushed over, and you can tell she's bothered by it, and she runs out of the church. But she never mentions it. Never. We do get a scene with Father Gus taking his bow and arrow out and doing his bow and arrow practice. And while he's shooting his bow, he has a really just out of the blue vision of one of the knights from the beginning of the film. And I was kind of wondering, like, I don't know how this ties. I know how it ties in, but like he's not at I don't think he's at the church, because we get a scene of him like walking through the town to get to this archery range. So I'm like, it's really weird that he would have a vision of one of the knights at this specific location and not at the church. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it was a weird choice. I think there's a lot of things about this character that don't make sense. First thing I want to acknowledge is that Gus is of color. He's a person of color. And so I do think that's like one of the cool aspects that he does rise up as kind of a hero here. And at first it's very unassuming, but you get this moment of him going for this, archery practice. And at first I didn't even think it was him, because he's dressed like very casual. Like he looks actually like hip. He's walking with that briefcase. He's got those leather archery gloves on. And I was like, is that the same guy? That can't be the priest. But it is. And there's this bit with these flashes of this knight running at him. And like, I get, like, you're right. Like, I get what they're trying to imply here. They're trying to like kind of almost like it's like mirroring the past in a way. But I thought Are they implying that he was there? Because there's no way he would have been. Are they implying that he in some way is also kind of like Lade is kind of a reincarnation or a bloodline or something? But none of these things are explained. Like, it's not explored any further. He doesn't even really get a chance to utilize his archery at all, right? It's not brought in. It should have been. It could have been brought into the finale. Defeat the fucking thing with it.
Yeah, he's not Yeah, we don't get it. He's not shooting demons at the end. Wouldn't that be something, like shooting demons with fucking bow and arrows at the end? And let's be clear, there's really no demons in this movie. I mean, there is a very distinct like set piece at the end of the film, but it's not threatening. It's just really gross looking, but it doesn't try to kill people. Yeah, I don't know. I was super confused. And then, I mean, then we cut back to Evan, who is back at the church. It's nighttime. He must have snuck in there, or he's staying late. He is literally just like exploring every possible nook and cranny of the church he can. He even goes down deeper into these creepy tunnels and catacombs, and water is dripping on the floor. It all seems very just like wet and, cold, and you can just, how it feels like it's permeating coldness and dampness and just, I don't want to be down there. And he notices like this cross carved into the floor. And on top of the cross, there is like this face. And as he gets down to mess with it and kind of brush dust away, he realizes that it is a stone with 7 eyes. And he pries it loose and is able to lift it up, and it reveals just like this dark, empty hole, when all of a sudden the floor, or the carve out of the cross, falls into the floor, and out of the darkness comes this bright blue light. And he reaches down into it and he pulls out this bag and starts to untie it. And I was not expecting this. This is like Amityville 2, the possession shit, where these hands just come out of this bag and start to grab him by the neck and choke him. And he's screaming. His hand has been cut. He falls onto the floor and he gets up and he notices like the hole is no longer there, just disappeared. It recovered itself up. And he hears somebody coming, so he ducks. And of course, it's Latte coming in from one of her, soirees at the local nightclub. And her father's behind her, but she's able to escape her father. Her dad's down there looking for her when he comes face to face with Evan, who reacts by punching him very brutally in the face and breaking his nose. I was like, this is out of nowhere. This whole thing, like hands coming out of bags, floors collapsing, and then to culminate in this.
It was vibing with the whole bit of him like finding that cross engraved in the floor, digging out that, that the stone with the 7 eyes, that it's like a goat face, comes into play. And this whole bit, like there's that really cool visual of the cross collapsing into the ground, and the emptiness below it. And you see like that piece of like cross, that reflected piece of glass. There's a really cool visual falling into the darkness for which seems like forever. It's very dreamy. You can tell it's going to snap out of a moment in a moment. You can tell he's having like a hallucination because the blue light, he reaches in that bag. And then, that whole bit with the arms coming out, I was actually really into it. And if you look, it feels like there's even more arms. There's like different pairs of arms reaching for him. It feels very violent. And then all of a sudden they're gone. And it's just a really cool moment. I wish this film had 10 times more moments like that. It unfortunately doesn't. But this worked. And then this whole bit though with I think it's Herman, I think is the name of Lottie's dad. It's so weird. Like you can tell pretty quick. You can tell that Evan is like affected by whatever just happened to him. He finds that cut on his wrist. It's not very clearly explained, so I'm just going to say it. Like basically the way that these demonic forces are kind of transferred from person to person is through basically injury. Any injury. Like, it doesn't even need to be a scratch. Like, the dad gets punched in the nose. He starts bleeding. He ends up becoming possessed. Later on, there's a woman who becomes stabbed with a pair of scissors on accident, and I don't even think it's a demon that does it, but she becomes possessed. So it's like, again, it's very loose here. Like, I don't know exactly what the rules are here or what's happening, but if someone becomes injured on this premises, they become apparently affected by a demonic force. That is the basic understanding that I have here. Would you agree?
Yeah. 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 That's I think yeah, because there's moments later in the film people are getting scratched and it has an effect on them. Though they don't really the only one that really turns violent that we see is Latte's dad. All the other ones that get affected seem to like either do self-harm or like their bodies deteriorate. I don't, again, loosey goosey with the rules and what is going on here. That night at Lisa's house, she's fallen asleep. She's actually read the book that Evan gave her about the cathedrals, and she's having this dream. There's like this voiceover dream she's having where she's going through the church. The phone rings. She answers this phone, and all she hears is gurgling. That's what it says. And we cut to see that it's Evan who is trying to call her and talk to her, and he is like just like foam coming out of his mouth. He can't talk. It's like he's turning into a demon from demons, is what it seems like. It doesn't go there, but that's what they're giving us at this moment. But then it does something really fucking weird where he literally, Roger, reaches in to his, like, I don't know, punches into his chest and rips his heart out and lifts it up. And we have that shot of the heart being illuminated by the light. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? This was supposed to be our lead character, and we're not even halfway through the film and he just fucking ripped his heart out. I don't know what the fuck's going on.
It's like in front of like a ice cream parlor. And he just pulls his fucking heart out. I think he eats it. He like brings it to his face. You don't see him consume it. But yeah, it's really weird. And like, he is not affected by the removal of his heart at all. He is clearly very much possessed. But since I don't know what the rules, what applies here with this possession, I guess you can do things like take your heart out and be okay. Because the next day he is at the job. I mean, he's definitely under the effect of the possession, but he's operating without a heart, I am assuming. So weird. It doesn't make any sense. Meanwhile, you got old girl. She's back at the house. She's laying. She's relaxing. She goes and she eats, I believe, a sandwich or a piece of bread. She's sitting there, just, having herself a calm evening. And she just happens to like turn and look out the window, and there's a goat. There's a goat at the window. It is a menacing goat. There is this unexpected goat. And my problem with this moment is you got all the pieces and parts here to make what could have been a great startle. But they make the weird decision to just have her casually look over, and without any score or embellishment or stinger, it's just she looks over and the camera racks focus and the goat's in the window. And I was like, oh, that was surprisingly anticlimactic for a film in which I've been very much awaiting the first visual of what this actual demon looks like. That was a really like weird way of bringing him into play. The goat comes back and he's utilized in better form. But this introduction to this goat was just it was startling, but not in a good way. It was just more, okay. All right. Well, now we have that. Now we're dealing with this goat man.
Yeah, I was confused. Is the goat Evan? Like did he turn into a goat, or because here's the thing is why would just a demon from the church just show up to her house? Like I thought this was Evan because before this scene, we do see a car speeding through the city going to her house. So I'm assuming Evan transforms into this goat figure. disturbs her while she's eating her cheese and crackers or crumpets or whatever the fuck she's eating. And I mean, this thing attacks her. It busts through the door. She grabs the phone and is able to call the police, but it yanks the phone out of her hand. Oh my God, this girl does a Sally Hardesty. She dives out of the fucking second story window onto the ground. And I will say, you know what? Good for Italy for having super responsive police officers, because it has not even been 5 seconds since she called the police and they are already on her front lawn.
I like this little moment here of her locking herself in her like her bedroom and or like a closet, and whatever this unseen, well, it's seen, it's this goat man, but after that he disappears again, but he's still there. His presence is there. So she locks herself in this room. She takes the phone. So she's not dumb. She takes the phone. She calls the police. She's screaming for the police. Whatever this force is, it grabs the cord of the phone and it pulls it, yanks it back. So yeah, she's forced to fucking swan dive through a plate glass window. And I don't know if I were to do that, I could be running at the fastest my chubby body can move me, which isn't that fast. But if I were to do that, Troy, and I were to try to jump through a window, even as a man who is on the cusp of 300 pounds, I don't know. I'm curious if I could so perfectly bust myself through a window like in the form that she does. She goes through that window. There's not a scratch. There's not a cut. She must have done this before. This woman must have dove through windows prior to this, because it is a flawless execution.
Yeah, that's another thing. Not a scratch on her, not a cut. I mean, if you dive through a window, you are going to be cut. But I was just floored by the cops already being there. And
and she bites the guy on the hand.
Yeah,
I like that.
Because he reaches down and he has a glove on and she bites his hand. And she's like, "It's a monster. It's a monster. Monster's trying to kill me." And he's like, "Ma'am, you better be lucky we were able to trace your call." Sir, it's been 15 seconds. Like I don't understand how they got there so fast.
I am so impressed. Lucky that they traced the call. I mean, they must have literally just been hanging out on her property, because she's also like, to me, it looks like she's living in a cabin. It does not feel like she's in an urban area.
It's very rustic,
rural.
Yeah, they have to
They have
to drive to get to her. I mean, we see the drive to get to her house earlier in the film, and it's very rustic. There's no other houses around it. This is not downtown Paris. She's out in the Italian countryside, outside the city. So how they got there that fast, I don't fucking know.
It literally is phone call, swan dive,
they're there,
roll onto the ground, still on her knees, goes to stand up, the cop is in front of her. There is no time for that cop to have even received the call, let alone have physically gotten themselves to that premises. So it really is baffling how they happen to be on that location.
And you know what else is baffling? I just want to bring up is think about it. Think about it. This is really her last like big scene in the film. She's in the film, obviously, like she has an encounter with Evan here very soon. And then she has some interactions with some of the other people, but this is like it for her. This is her last big scene. And I don't think, for a character being introduced like this, I don't think she has a satisfactory ending at all. Like this is, I was very like, I don't want to say upset, but like I was very puzzled with how this character is handled.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it is, and again, a lot of these Italian genre films do not prioritize the characters, but still you get like a conclusion where certain characters, at least it kind of like wraps their stories up, makes them feel they're given somewhat of an element of closure. As soon as her purpose, as soon as she's not really serving a purpose any longer to the storyline, like she is so disposable here, and it's disappointing because she is a major factor, as is Evan, and neither of the characters that we invest pretty much the majority of the time in for the first half of the film, neither of them really become focal factors for the conclusion of it, at least in a way that I agree I would find satisfying or reasonable or well handled. I don't think it's a well handled aspect of the movie at all.
No, they make the decision to introduce a bunch of characters and not let us know any of them. like literally they shift our focus to the characters that we've been spending the entire movie with now to a bunch of just random people, because there's a bridal shoot going on outside the church the next day when Lisa gets there, and she goes in and she sees Evan typing away, and we think, oh my God, he's going to be, how is he alive? We just saw him with his heart ripped out. He turns around and he's normal looking, and he's like, oh, where were you? I tried to get a hold of you last night. She's like, oh, Evan, someone tried to kill me last night. It was a monster. And where were you last night? And he said, well, it was funny. I was here working and the sacristan attacked me and tried to, tried to assault me. I'm like, where, what? But then he all of a sudden, he's like, come here, give me a kiss. And he very violently tries to kiss and assault her. Like he's on the verge of sexually assaulting this woman when she slaps him and runs away. And she's like, you're a bastard. You're a bastard. And Latte hears this and comes in. And Latte's like, well, what's the matter with Lisa? And he's, I don't know, nerves maybe. No, it's the fact that you just tried to rape her. That's what's wrong with her.
Well, it becomes pretty clear to me that he also is immediately, I'm going to then probably try to rape this teenage girl. The way he looks at her when she's sitting in the chair, kind of kicking her feet back and forth, listening to her music and her earphones. He looks over slowly and he's looking super ominous and creepy. It's pretty clear. It's implied heavily that he's going to do something maniacal to this girl. And she does look so young that it does feel very uncomfortable. I think, if anything, that they wanted to cast Asia Argento in this role, and they maybe cast her a bit too young. And so they were trying to mature her a little bit in certain parts. But because she's got this baby cherubic face, it feels very uncomfortable when he starts to shift the energy over towards her.
One of the most uncomfortable moments of the film is this scene, because she is sitting, at her desk. She's wearing she's not wearing, it's not a skirt, but she's wearing like shorts. And, we see the camera makes a point to point between her legs, right? Which is uncomfortable enough as it is. I don't want a camera pointed between a 11 or 12-year-old girl's legs. But then we get the shot of him looking under the table between her legs and starts smiling and licking his lips. And it's just really uncomfortable, really uncomfortable. Just gets a little bit more comfortable later on, because what you think he's going to do to her, he does try to do. But now the film loses, I don't know when to say it loses me, but I'm like, wait, what? I liked the character of Lisa, but now we are introduced to a whole slew of people that are in this church. We get a class trip, a field trip full of a bunch of elementary kids and their teacher. And we get some random couple that wander in the church because they are trying to kill time before they go to a concert. So we get the stereotypical demons motorcycle couple that are riding on a motorcycle, but they want to kill time, so they go into to tour the church. We get some old couple, this random old couple who are in the church. They're trying to use the phone. They can't hear anything. We just get a whole slew of new characters. None of them have any development, any personality traits. It's just let's just throw a bunch of random people in a space so that we can lock them in the space here in a few minutes. This is where I feel like the film was trying to be demons in terms of getting a bunch of people and locking them in a space where they can't get out. It did not need to go that route, because this film is not demons. If you're going to do that, then you better fucking give me demons. This does not at all.
And also, if you're going to do this, introduce these characters 20 minutes earlier. If you're going to go ragtag group of survivors, and I'm a fan of that structure, there's certain rules to the game. I want to know more about the individuals I need to be invested in. And unfortunately, I would say one of the biggest flaws of this film is this decision, exactly what you're saying, to go into an ensemble piece with an ensemble that I could give two shits about. There's nobody here of major interest. Not that they are or are not capable. There's a lot of really bad acting, let's be clear, but I mean, with maybe some time and development, they could have been characters I cared about. But why now? We're in the final 30 minutes of the movie. We are taking a harsh pivot, and they have taken so much time fast forwarding this weird romance with Evan and Lisa and developing all these other character traits and plots and Lottie running away and all these things, and you learning how to go to these clubs and come back and how she can sneak out. A lot of these things really are not going to serve a lot of purpose. You know, a lot of the things that we've learned thus far don't matter anymore. The storyline is truly, at its core, Evan becomes possessed by this demonic force. Evan, as part of this ritual, needs to get someone pregnant. They always fucking do, some way, shape, or form. Evan eats his heart and then tries to rape Lisa. Doesn't go as planned. So he turns his focus to Lottie. She gets the fuck away. And so basically now he is under the effects of this demonic possession, and it's progressively becoming more and more of a thing. He's got to get some gal knocked up. Tale as old as time. We've seen this all done before. This is just done in an especially choppy and sloppy way that every decision that is made moving forward, every time they choose to cut over to another character, kill a character, have them go through some kind of demonic hallucination, whatever it is, it feels out of nowhere. None of it feels like it makes sense. None of it's connected. It's not building to a greater purpose. It's just like a bunch of random shit happening that's really kind of wasting my time when I could be getting through what is a way better storyline here, because there is a story at play here that deserves a lot more attention than just this throwing at this group of kids that you don't even know what the fuck happens to these children. Like, I honestly, like, there's so many characters who come and go and just suddenly disappear or just suddenly appear and all this, and you're like, who the fuck is this? It's so weird. People are given moments, characters are given moments that don't need to exist, and it's a really poor usage of the remaining time in the film.
Very. I was expecting, I was disappointed, but I was like, you know what? Okay, so I see what they're trying to go for here. We're locking a bunch of people in a location. We're going to unleash some holy hell on them, and it's going to be a splattery, bloody good time. That is not what you get at all. So I was like, wow. I was disappointed. You get a moment now where Evan is with Latte in the library. He starts typing a bunch of sixes, and then he approaches her and it was like, "Why aren't you in school?" And she's like, "Well, wasn't feeling well." He's like, "Oh, did you have a tummy ache, little girl?" Real like creepy. "Did you have a tummy ache, little girl?" She's like, "No, I had a headache." He's like, "No, I think you had a tummy ache. We need to see what's in that tummy." And then he like takes a dagger out and points it at her stomach, and he's, "Let me see what's inside." Luckily, she's able to pull a bookshelf over and take off running, and she runs to her dad, who is staring in the mirror, and she's like, Dad, he tried to kill me. He tried to kill me. He's a monster. He's a demon." And the dad reacts by like, "You little bitch, you don't talk about people that way." And he drags her into the bathroom, proceeds to wash her mouth out with soap. And when she looks into the mirror, she sees his reflection is now a demon face, just out of like a pig looking demon face. And so she like gets the fuck out of there. She takes off, runs out of the church, runs into that fucking bride, is like, watch out, you little dummy. And she's out of there. So Latte's out of the church for the rest of the film, and for the most part. And now this bridal group comes in to the church to get permission to be able to have their photo shoot inside the church. So now we got a random old couple, we got a motorcycle couple, we got a bridal shower, and we got a elementary class there for a field trip.
Too many fucking people. Too many to count. And I couldn't tell you how many people are in this fucking building. I can't tell you who dies when half the time. I do like the moment that when this whole bit is happening with the possessed dad, which I wish I saw more of the progression. Like, Demons did such a good job of when someone gets scratched, you understand the progression of that infection or whatever it is. You see the thing pussing and oozing and growing and welting, and all of a sudden this dad's just possessed, and he, grabs the daughter, washes the mouth out. You see that fucking weird macaw looking demon, which again, I wish I saw more of that shit. What's that? What was that thing? Can I see more of that? You never see it again. You just see it in the reflection. She runs away, and then that mom's like, "Don't keep me waiting on those onions, Herman." This horrible mother who watches her daughter get violently abused by this now demonic husband of hers. This is something that I feel like was ripe for development. Because in a way, Herman is kind of like taking the title of like the Goretta demon from demons. Like he is the first side character that's now infected and would be spreading it, and he's taking on all of those character traits. He's acting animalistic. He's becoming more and more violent. But because there's no rules here, because it's so loose, it's kind of like just like a side concept. Like every once in a while he comes to play, he's annoying. But the demons or the people that are infected here, you don't really know what their end game is. You said this earlier. Like some people are inflicting pain on themselves. Some people are trying to hurt other people. Some people just look like they're like smoking or just going through like fits of pain or seeing hallucinations, being attacked by fish demons, all this fucking weird nonsense. And it's just really becoming very confusing. Like I don't know what the signs of this possession actually are. It seems really, really, really open to interpretation, I guess.
Yeah, it's real loose. Well, even here's an example. Father Gus goes into the confession booth, and the person on the other side of Father tells him, "Father, I've lost my faith." And Father says, "I know who you are. You're Herman." He's like, "No, I am no longer Herman. Last night a demon possessed me. I want to kill and destroy." This is so like literal. I mean, you have somebody literally saying, "I was possessed by a demon." And he like punches through the wall, but he doesn't try to kill Father Gus. Instead, he runs down into the basement. But as he runs down into the basement, he runs through the crowd of the wedding party and the kids, and he like scratches a couple of them across the face as he's running. He scratches one of the guys in the wedding party, and he scratches this little boy. And then he goes downstairs and proceeds to commit suicide with a jackhammer that is probably the goriest effect in the film. I'll give it that. But you just said, like you just got done saying you want to kill people and destroy everyone. But then you run down into the basement and commit suicide with a jackhammer. It's real odd. Of course, Father Gus gets down there and sees the whole thing, and his reaction could not be more muted. I have never seen a character react to somebody with a jackhammer going through them in a more stoic way. He's like, oh no. But then this kicks in to gear. Maybe this is why he did it, because the demon knew if he destroyed the body he was in, that it was going to kick into gear this whole contraption where it's like the board game Mousetrap. Remember that? Where you set into motion a contract, like think of the beginning of Pee-wee's Big Adventure to get his breakfast. You have all these gears going, and it ultimately leads into the church doors closing, and locking everyone in. The one broad is pinned to the door because she was doing a photo shoot in the doorway. Her dress gets caught in the door, so she spends most of the rest of the movie pinned to the door of the church.
I think one of the ideas here, like one of the ideas at play here, is actually quite cool, but it's not thoroughly explained. But from what I'm gathering, based off the visuals that I'm seeing, is that the amount of blood that's spilled is kind of what's triggering this mechanism to go off. Like that sacrifice, the blood offering is part of the ritual, and it started when initially Evan opened up that gate, opened up that bag, had that hallucination. He cut himself on a piece of glass. His blood dripped, and he was the first one to become possessed because of this. And now it's kind of set off everything's in motion. But in order for the church to become activated, there is a certain blood offering that needs a certain volume of blood, because you see this like almost glass contraption that as it fills up, it sets everything into motion. So I think that's a really cool idea. There's some visuals here that almost give me like a hint of like the remake of 13 Ghosts, taking some influence from this, like especially as you start to go a little further into the story and realize exactly what this contraption is. But yeah, the church is really, it's a contraption to kind of set into motion what is the next steps of this grand demonic execution here. And so everyone in the church becomes trapped inside. Like you mentioned, people get scratched by Herman as he runs into the catacombs. And like again, one of the things that demons did so well is when people became scratched, you saw it. It was very obvious. And the reactions to what's happening were so much bigger. Even in being another dubbed film, the reactions to what was happening felt at least consistent with the scale of events that people were experiencing. Here, like people get scratched and like, I don't even know who's scratched. But like one of the kids is like, that guy scratched me. And they're like, okay. And like the groom is like, that guy scratched me. And they're like, your photos will be fine. And like, I'm like, did he even get scratched? I can't even fucking tell. Yeah, so a couple people are scratched and like they start going through it. Like all of a sudden people are sweating. The groom's up against the door trying to get it open for his bride. And pretty soon he's just gaping mouth, sweating on the door, collapsing against it. And people are just kind of being dismissive. Like, I don't understand people's responses to half of the things that are happening right now.
Well, even the bishop, because Father Gus goes to find the bishop to tell him, and the bishop's like, to tell him, hey, the sacristan's dead, he just killed himself, and the bishop's like, hushes him. He's like, shh, and then points to a stone that flipped over when all this contraption was set into motion, and the stone reads something about it was intended that the secret should remain buried in oblivion for 1,000 years. If it has come before your eyes, the terrible truth is then vivid. Evil has taken the form of monstrous creatures that we call demons. Okay, great. Love it. But we don't really get that. We do get that broad screaming her fucking head off about how she can't take it being stuck in the door anymore. I get it, but it doesn't seem like it's been that long. She's like, oh my God, get me out of here. I can't take it anymore. Please get me out of here. And the photographer's like, no, we're not cutting that dress. It's too expensive.
Well, and like eventually they do cut the dress off, but again, like if you're gonna make this be a big deal, like with her veil and everything getting caught in the workings of the church and the door, like I mean, if anything, if she's getting choked out, show it, make it feel more intense. But she's just kind of hanging there, sweating. Nobody's all too worried about it, and it feels like, if anything, like this should be easy. This should be really easy to make this seem like a dire situation. But between the editing and just the acting and all of these components combined, the way they do it lowers the stakes in a way. You know, I always talk about raising the stakes. Final 10 to 20 minutes of the movie, you got to raise the stakes. And if anything here, the way this is handled lowers the stakes because it makes things seem like they're not that big of a deal. Like they're not that intimidating. They're not that scary. People don't seem that worried. And it really kind of just takes the wind out of the sails of what should be the most exciting part of the film.
Exactly. Nobody's reaction here is on par with what I think it should be. I mean, there's some gentle bitching, but nobody seems to care that it's just announced that the sacristan killed himself. His guts are all over the place because Gus does come and tell the Reverend, hey, Reverend, call the police. And it's in front of everybody. He's like, call the police. The sacristan's down in the basement. His guts are everywhere. You need to call the police. People are just like, oh, okay. So the Reverend does go to call the police, but of course the phone doesn't work. He hears a noise like in the back room and he goes to investigate and we hear something and it's an off-screen death. We just see something charged towards him. We don't see what happens to him. I'm like, fuck. Really?
Well, how are you going to give me an off-screen death when you're making a movie about demonic possessions? Like it just, it makes no sense. It's not like you see his body. It's not like you ever come back to him. He just cowers and then it cuts away. Bad choices being made. Also, find me a church that has one exit. Find me a church that has a one door in and out. I think that's illegal. I'm pretty confident that's illegal. There has to be other ways in and out of this building. Break a fucking stained glass window. I don't care. If it gets to a point where you're that stressed, they're doing construction anyways. They'll rebuild it. Bust a window.
Isn't that the thing? Because like nobody seems to be like really trying to find a way out. They're just accepting the idea that there's just one exit. That's it. No, there are windows. Think about, and I hate to keep bringing up demons, but think about demons and like how everybody was so desperate to get out of that fucking theater. They were trying to do whatever they could. They were crawling through, air vents. They were scaling the fucking ceiling. These people are just like, oh, well, I guess we can't get out. We're not even going to try.
That's one of the biggest gripes, Troy, is if we're going to compare this against demons, is truthfully, it's the fear factor from the individuals within the environment. That is one of the biggest Achilles heels of this film.
It's non-existent. These people see people being murdered in front of them, and there's still no reaction. Like I said, the kids continue to play tag. I'm gonna get to that in a minute. But like, finally, to shut her up, the photographer does cut the dress away from that bride, and that there's like this elderly couple. Who are these two? Like wandering
us.
That's gonna be us. Just wandering around bitching about everything. He's mean. He's like, "You shut up, you old cow," and they're just bickering back and forth.
And she's very pleasant, even when he abuses her. She's like, "Oh, have some groovy biscuits." Like, she's clearly in the late stages of dementia. I'm feeling this woman. She is not comprehending how this man is talking to her. I don't know their names. I don't know if that woman has a name.
None of them have names. None of the kids have names. So the guy that the sacristan scratched is going into like a fucking major shock, and he's sweating profusely. He runs to the holy water bowl, I think, to splash water on his face, when all of a sudden this demon fish jumps out and latches onto his face. I love this demon fish, but like comes out of nowhere. But then Father Gus looks over and doesn't see the fish, just sees the guy like acting like he's trying to get something off of his face. So what is the deal with you can't see the demons or what? I'm so confused.
I really don't like that development. That is something that comes up a couple of times. There's a few times here where it's clear that certain people who have been affected or infected or whatever the term is are experiencing or encountering something that other people are not, which again is like sucks the fear factor out of it for me. Like, I really want there to be a physical threat to these people. And yeah, this fish, like, tell me more about this fish. This fish, much like that weird bird alien that we saw in the reflection earlier, never comes back up again. And I'm like, okay, you have unlimited ability to just create as many weird, unique demonic entities as you want. It's clear that you don't have a specific style of demon like Demons does. These demons are all over the place. So if you're going to make these weird, strange looking creations, fucking use them. And if you're going to have a fish monster maul in some guy's face, whether he's hallucinating or not, that fish better come up again. And for you to just show me that fish monster briefly in this one moment where this poor guy's getting his face mauled and then never bring it back up again, I think that's a wasted opportunity. I think that's stupid. It pisses me off. I'm so mad we never learn more about that fish.
Yeah, it's and it pisses me off that they're going to pull the thing where we want to be a demon movie, but now we want to be a demon movie where the demons really don't exist. People aren't really seeing them. They can see some, they can't see them all. I don't fucking know what this movie's trying to go for. So motorcycle guy sees his girl wander off. One of the boys is the teacher. One of the boys is talking to his teacher about, oh my God, teacher, do you realize it's actually midnight? So these people have been stuck in this church. It's after midnight and still none of them are trying to get out. Now she drops her glasses on the floor, right? Okay. So that comes into play here in a minute. Motorcycle dude goes to look for his girlfriend. He follows her. And when he turns the corner, like, he sees some of her clothes on the floor. And when he gets around the corner, he sees her making out with this like winged creature. like, what the fuck is going on? But then as he approaches, all of a sudden she's behind him saying, what are you doing? Where have you been, you idiot? So I guess it was a hallucination, or was it? I don't know. I don't know.
I definitely feel like the individuals inside of the church, because of what's being unleashed, there are a lot of hallucinations. And I think like they're really trying to make it clear, for you as the viewer, don't trust what you're seeing. You don't know what's real and what's not. But it does get very confusing. I love this visual. She's nude, wrapped up in the wings of this demon. I'm pretty sure it's Evan that is like in the midst of what is like a demonic transformation, evolution. And it's just a really cool visual. She's got snakes wrapped around her legs, and she's like pulled back behind a area of the church where she becomes no longer visible. And so when the boyfriend goes to pursue, he runs into her. And it's a cool moment, but yeah, like it just doesn't make sense. But much like everything here, it doesn't make sense. The only character that seems like they are responding reasonably is the teacher. She's like, oh, the children, we must get the children out. And she is rendered like Velma Dinkley. She loses her glasses, and all she has left at this point is like, my glasses. Where are my glasses? And then there's that mysterious child that comes out of nowhere, who his name is Otto. And he's like, oh, teacher, someone found your glasses. I'm going to take you to them. He's definitely got to be possessed too. Tell me that fucker's not possessed. He seems very ominous, but I don't even know who's possessed and who's not anymore. I just, the training wheels are off. We are driving fast and loose, and it is very confusing.
What? So here we go. The teacher goes to get her glasses. At the same time, we see someone like ripping a section of the fence that has the spikes on it off, and starts running towards the woman starts running towards the door, and the bride in the dress gets cut away just in time, and as the teacher at the same time reaches down on the floor, picks up her glasses, stands up to put the glasses on, and she's immediately impaled by the fence. Now, is that the sacristan? Did he come back to life?
Yes, that is.
Okay, I'm so confused.
In my opinion, that looked like the sacristan. That was definitely
but I'm like,
sacristan.
you just jackhammered your guts out. Like, but here's the thing. Okay, forget that part. The whole church, everyone in this church, Roger, just saw this happen. Do any of them react? Do you hear anybody scream? No. Do you hear any people like, oh my fucking... And does the sacristan, what happened to him? Does he go around to try to kill anybody else? He just disappeared. So there's zero reaction to this woman being brutally impaled through the neck. It's pretty gnarly. And in fact, the next scene, kids are running around the church playing tag.
It feels almost as though there has to be like multiple rooms in the church, but the problem is there's not. The way this happens, and it's done through the first person perspective, which is really cool. It almost looks like the metal gate with the spikes, coming unhinged from the wall. It almost looks like it's happening on its own accord. It doesn't even feel like someone's doing it. But no, after you see this whole weird first person perspective, it's revealed to be Herman. Problem here is like literally you see the perspective of the gate floating over and speeding towards the bride, who is just barely killed. I mean, she gets away just in the nick of time. She jumps out of the way somehow. And this feels like it's two different places. Somehow the teacher steps up in her place, puts her glasses on, and that fucking metal gate goes through her throat. And because of the first person perspective, you see children all over the place. People are crisscrossing in front of the perspective. Like, people had to see this. But then when it cuts back to the angle of Herman post stabbing this woman, there's nobody behind him. It feels like they took another moment that was meant to happen earlier in the film, and in order to try to like fix something or connect things together, they just threw it in there without thinking about anything, because it truly makes no sense. It makes no sense what happened here. It feels like it was an error. It's glaring. It's a problem for me. the way this woman dies and the fact that nobody acknowledges it, responds to it, freaks out anything. I mean, like, it's a huge issue. I really don't understand how this is like acknowledged as even a somewhat competent finale when you have massive glaring problems like this happening, which are not explained and nobody's reacting to it. It feels like a huge failure. It really does.
My thoughts exactly. I mean, I almost zoned out after this. I'm like, okay, so if we're not going to get any reactions from the characters when these people are brutally murdered in front of them, why should I care? Like, I don't understand how you can have such a brutal death happen in front of everybody and there not even be a scream. There's not even a scream from anybody. You do get this moment with that little kid that got scratched is now freaking out with his friend. He's laying on the floor and he's like, I just want to go to sleep. And they say if you go to sleep and your best friend, you look up and your best friend's face will be the same as yours if he's your best friend. So the friend like looks down at him and it is now him. I was so confused by what this was supposed to be too. All of a sudden, you see a hand reach up and grab the little kid and pull him down. So I'm assuming the kid that got scratched just killed this kid. But why did he turn into looking like I don't fucking know. At this point, Roger, I was like, can we just get to the end? Because I'm
Can we just get to the end? Absolutely. And I think another thing that's worth noting is all of the kids are shown just like hanging out. One of them's playing a trumpet. There's an obese child wearing a police helmet or the motorcycle helmet. That's what it is. And it just tonally doesn't even fit the moment. But then you've got this whole bit where I didn't even notice their faces change. I don't fucking know. I don't care. The one kid gets grabbed by the head. He gets pulled down. It's almost erotic. It's really weird. He gets pulled down. And then I'm like, are they massacring the children? You'd never see the kids again. You see one child who I think is dead against a piece of plastic. But this is the last time that we see the children. And it's not like we see their gory remains. It's not like we see them come back as demons. We just stop seeing them. They stop reacting. They stop responding to what's happening. They're just not there anymore. There were a lot of kids. Like there was a classroom of children. To not acknowledge the proper outcome of what happened to all of them is bullshit. I call bullshit.
absolute bullshit. We're supposed to, I guess we're supposed to make the inference what happens to them, but we don't see any of it. Like we don't see people like running in terror, trying to save themselves when ultimately what happens. I guess I got to give the motorcycle couple credit because they do try to like find a way out. Like they go down into the tunnels to find a way out. What happens doesn't make a fucking lick of sense, but at least they're trying. That old couple is still wandering around. They've gone up to the bell tower.
Neither of them have been scratched or anything, by the way, these two old people. They're not injured. There's no reason for them to become possessed, from my understanding. They're just walking around. They seem fine. They're having a good time. She's cracking jokes. Totally doesn't make sense.
We cut to Latte, who is at the nightclub, and she apparently has a premonition or a feeling that something's wrong. So she has to go. She tells the guy to take her home, and he's like, "I ain't taking you. I'm staying here." She's like, "Oh, fuck you," and she takes off running. Now it's pouring rain now for some reason, and the Father Gus and the bishop are out on a balcony. Think about this, Roger. It's an open air balcony. So I would think that there would be some way for these people, if they really were concerned about getting trapped, to be able to get off of this balcony, because ultimately it doesn't seem that high, right? But Father Gus is trying to tell the bishop, we got to do something. We got to do something. The bishop is basically going, he's like, no, this cathedral is infested by evil. And the architect, he designed this with a door mechanism for security. So if the evil was ever going to get out, the door would shut and it was going to trap the evil in the church. And because if it escapes, it's worse. It's going to be worse than the plague. And Father's like, what are we supposed to do? He's like, there's nothing you can do. You have a choice, either demonic possession or die beneath the ruins of the cathedral. So the bishop is basically telling me, I can't let you out of here. I can't let anybody out of here, because if we open the doors, anybody gets out of here, all of the evil is going to get out of here as well. So your choice is basically become possessed or just die and release this mechanism, because apparently we find out that the church was built with this mechanism that will self-implode. If you find the mechanism, you can destroy the church to prevent all the evil from getting out.
And again, what a cool storyline. Like the fact that they're fucking it up as much as they are, I think, like, I hate to say it, but like it just, this is an example of a filmmaker at one of their lowest points. Really, this is some sloppy storytelling. Really sloppy. And I just don't think there's an excuse for a storyline that's this streamlined. Really, again, we've seen this story told a million times. It's just being done really poorly here. This ending is just unacceptable. Until, Gus starts demanding that the bishop help him, and the bishop's like, I well, no, no. And then he takes that parchment, he starts tearing it up, and Gus runs to him trying to grab it from him, and he accidentally pushes the bishop to his death. He falls to his death. He gets speared on a gargoyle. It's a cool visual. I mean, so he's dead now. No big loss there. He was extremely unpleasant. But yeah, so now basically Gus is in a position, he's the only one that really knows what's happening. And so he is like, I guess, the hero now. He is the focus, and it is just, I like him. He's fine, but now other characters, I kind of forget that Lisa was even a pivotal element of the storyline at some point, because now she's just under the possession. She's affected. At one point she had taken a drink of holy water, and that, I think, is what really got her to be possessed. But so now she's like hearing things, and she's walking down into the catacombs and becoming part of what like is a major element of the final push of this demonic entity to become unleashed upon the world. She is a pivotal element of it, but it does her storyline no favors. It really doesn't. She is not important. She's only an important tool in aspect of what's about to happen.
There's nothing left really for her to do, but we do know that Father Gus knows he has to find this. He has to find the trigger, the button, quote unquote, to push to be able to destroy the church. And the bishop even tells him before he dies, if the cathedral falls, then that means that a few saved the majority. So it's going to take you few will die. We'll die in here, but that means we're going to save the majority of the people. So now this becomes Father Gus's mission. We get this, like, the motorcycle couple now, Roger. They're in this dead end tomb looking thing. The girl freaks out because they're trapped. The guy's like, wait, I can hear something below. So he busts through the floor. The floor collapses. The girl falls through. He grabs her hand and he's holding her and she's screaming. He's trying to pull her up. All of a sudden she sees like lights. And she's like, what is this? And they get closer and closer. What the fuck? It is a subway train that proceeds to smash her fucking face in. Where did this, so how is, please explain to me how the subway is built under the church, but did not unleash all of the bodies when they dug there. Like, there should be nothing. We just got done having a whole conversation earlier in the film about how there's nothing buried under this church. There can't be. So how the fuck is there a subway under this church?
How the fuck is there a subway? Sure, but the visual of this gal,
I love it,
smashing into that glass, her claymation face just erupting onto the glass of the subway. It is one of the coolest moments in the film. It doesn't make a lick of sense. All I can imagine is that they had managed, because they're crawling for a bit. Like, they're the two, they're like, let's get the fuck out of here. And so they're crawling. So my guess is that they eventually crawled so far outside of the catacombs that they eventually got far enough away from the church that I'm guessing that they're now just over the subway system. I mean, it's one of the less confusing aspects, but it still doesn't make any fucking sense. But the visual of her death is fantastic. And I really appreciate that. But one thing that baffles me is, what about the fucking boyfriend? Like, I'm guessing he must have got hit by the train. I don't know, but he was over top her. So all he needs to do is drop down and fucking get out. He could survive. That guy, either he got smashed by the train or he got the fuck out. I'm convinced, though, that he would not have been killed. I'm sure he was very upset that his lovely girlfriend died. But technically, all he would have had to have done is lift his arm up and he's fine. So did he survive? Why don't I see his death?
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing. Unless it pulled him down, like if it hit her, it could have yanked him down. I don't know. We don't see it. missed opportunity there. Back at the church, this is what I say, the kids are running around playing horsey. Like they're literally, we just saw a woman be brutally murdered. The kids are running around playing horsey. That bride freaks out about how she needs a mirror. Like I need a mirror. I have to look at myself. So they go into a back room. Lisa is here. Lisa does go with her. She pulls back the curtain to reveal like the mirror is all dripping with liquids. But as she looks at her reflection, she's an old lady. She's like, that's not my face. I'm an old lady. And she begins to like rip her face apart, tear her face up. I guess that kills her because it's the last we see of her.
You know, we've seen films do similar setups like this, where you have a side character that experiences a grotesque death. Their sole purpose of being there is to have a really wild death. Like, you know, this bride is not going to be a major playing factor here, but it's so like unceremonious. Like, she pulls back the curtain. You see this like visual of this painting of this very homely nun starts crying this like clear goop and starts running down the glass. And then the bride starts to see this visual of her as an old woman, and she starts tearing away at her skin. But it's, again, it feels like an afterthought. It's so quickly rushed through, it just doesn't feel of importance. And so these people are just dying in all these really weird, random ways. Nobody is acknowledging it at all. Gus is still working at piecing together that parchment so he can really understand like what is about to happen. He needs to figure out like what his next step is so he can find out where the lever is, or the way to stop this contraption. And so Lisa is now in the catacombs. She has gone down there, and you're starting to see all these visuals of like candles and all of the people who have been locked in the church are there. Some of them are people we've seen, I guess, like die or become possessed. Some of them we don't even know like where they went. Like the photographer's there, that one blonde broad, the photographer, she's there just hanging out. But never saw her get killed. I never saw anything happen to her. Like, I mean, she just kind of disappeared, and now she's part of this group. And I just, again, I don't even understand how she got to be there.
And they proceed to do a ritual on her. They paint her body with blood. And then Evan literally gets on top of her and starts fucking her. And as he's doing it, she sees him turning into a fucking goat demon.
This is the visual the film's known for. This fucking goat.
Yeah.
Now that you see it in all its glory, it's great. It's great. It's animatronic. The mask is moving. The mouth is moving. You know, there's definitely a lot of thought and effort went into this thing. And they use it. You know, you see him banging her, like it's pretty wild. But I do feel like for as epic as this thing is, as grand as it looks, like it's underutilized. You should see way more of this, especially this finale should be a bigger thing. But everything is being so rushed right now. All of this is moving so quick that it's hard to really kind of sit in the moment and appreciate it. But this thing does look fantastic. It's got huge wings, big old goat head, and yeah, and so Evan, now a goat, starts railing poor Lisa, and you don't even really see like what happens to her technically after this, right?
No, not at all. Not at all. Father Gus basically figures out what he needs to do. He needs to find the lever, find where this lever is that he can pull to destroy the church. He runs into Latte, and he asks her if there's another way out, and she does tell them, yes, there's a crack down there that I sneak out of. And then like he tells her they have to get out of there, but then she sees an image on the scroll, which is the night image, and she begins to have this like flashback, and then she repeats like everything we need to know, that years ago everyone was killed, they tortured everybody, the architect was the only one they left alive because they had to make sure that he was going to give them, you know, the information that they needed, but then they tortured him to death. And we flash back to seeing them have this poor man on this, you know, round like pentagram gear thing, and they're like yelling at him about how he's a witch and he's practices alchemy, and that they need to shut the secret in his mouth forever. So then we see them take like this, I don't know what would you call it, like a spear or a handle or something, and shove it into his mouth and like kill him, shove this rod down his throat.
Well, isn't that piece they put in his mouth, isn't that technically the lever that you need to use to shut the thing off? Yeah, and so it's again, it's a cool development. It's way too late in the game. We should have learned a lot more about all this shit earlier on, because now they're just throwing shit at you, and it's exposition heavy dialogue that Latte is being used as like a method to communicate that with the audience, but it just is like, feels like, what the fuck? Like, why does she know this? I know you had the same actress play the individual in the opening of the film. This needs to be explained further. I need to understand why she suddenly has this knowledge. But she's like almost like catatonic, and then she starts to spew all this information. And yeah, it just feels extremely breezed through. And there's this whole bit of, there are these statues, these cloaked statues that are very ominous. They're all throughout the church, and they're made out of stone, but they seem to start coming to life. The one turns, and I believe it's the face of, from the opening night sequence, the one man that we saw in the beginning that was ordering everything to happen and all the bodies to get buried. I think we see him for a moment. It's very, very confusing. Very confusing.
Very confusing. They rush to get out of there. They run past the ceremony where Lisa's not being fucked by that full-fledged demon. Now this is when we see the full-fledged demon wings. It looks fantastic. Gus and Latte see it. He tells her, just get out of here. He's like, you got to get out of here. You have the chance. Get out of here. So she against her better judgment, she doesn't want to at first, but she leaves him. And he sees the group chanting by the crucifix in the floor, and it collapses. He is able to figure out now, or have some realization of where the architect's tomb must be. So he runs to the tomb and pulls it open, reveals the corpse with the metal handle in its mouth. And suddenly, I guess the second big special effect of this film is this, what would you even call this? Like tower of bodies?
It's this like monstrosity of it's almost like a body of work kind of design, where all of these corpses, I would like, it looks almost like all of these corpses, which I'm assuming the corpses from the initial massacre, have morphed together to form this giant, like towering entity. Like the corpses are literally used to create this thing, and it's disgusting. I mean, it's breathtaking. It's one of the coolest visuals I've seen in a while, and it's such a shame that it's coming at the end of this movie, because it really looks so fucking good. After all this bullshit, this thing busts out of the floor. I love the little detail of when, how he realizes the lever in the mouth. There's all these statues all throughout the church, and there's this one with a piece of like parchment actually in its mouth engraved into the floor, and he's like, that's got to be what it is, and he's correct. So he busts this thing open, he's able to get the lever, but yeah, the whole church starts to basically collapse and give way to this thing. And Troy, I'll tell you, this is the one thing I had seen so much of and got me so excited for this film. And I was expecting this to unleash into what would be another maybe 10 minutes of final showdowns, bow and arrows, archery, demons. And you think this is going to be this big, grand hoo-ha. And it just ends. Like, it just fucking ends with the building collapsing, and you get so little of this thing. And I was literally just sitting there with my hands on either side of my face, just like in awe, shocked that they had given us this grandiose, phenomenal final visual, and then they chose to just neuter it. Like, I feel like they neutered it. They cut the balls off of this thing, and they could have given us something really amazing. And this final beat just ends so unceremoniously. I was irate. I was honestly pissed off. And not only that, the building's collapsing. You see this random woman praying, getting covered with
Where's Sheba?
Debris. Where's Sheba? Who the fuck is that thing? You see one child up against like a piece of the plastic, like, who is apparently, I'm assuming, dead, but like, I can't really tell. It's just so weird, and it feels so anticlimactic. Like, I feel like this was such an unceremonious, unsatisfying conclusion to this film.
And I'm assuming we're supposed to infer that this is how everyone in the church ends up dying, that they all have to die to save the majority, even though most of them don't know. And he's like the kids, anybody else from the wedding party, they wouldn't know what's going on. We do see like the bricks. Yeah, they fall on a couple of the kids. They fall on that lady that's in the church praying, who actually we see that same shot of her a couple times throughout the film. Did you notice that? Like during the sermon earlier, we see that exact same shot of her looking up from praying. So she's been in the church the entire fucking time. She gets crushed. Everyone's getting crushed, including Father Gus, who literally just like doesn't try to get away. He just like lays there, lets the bricks fall on him, lets a statue fall on him. We see a statue fall on that big tower of bodies, which is very Society-like. That was the vibes it was giving me from the Society, the movie. There's that one body, like the torso that's like the legs are sticking out and they're kicking. It's all slimy. But that's it. The building collapse probably lasts about 15 seconds, right? And that's it. And then we're done. And we cut to the future. I don't know if it's a month later, a year later, where visitors are touring the church ruins. The steeple, the spire was spared in the disaster, so it's still there, which kind of plays into something that happens where we see Latte. She's alive, she's well, she doesn't look much older, so I can't imagine this wasn't that much longer, or not a lot of time has gone by. She, climbs through the fence into the yard where the church was. There's a picture of her mom and dad there, and she puts some flowers on it. She does see that seven-eyed stone is on the floor, on the ground as well. And all of a sudden, like, she gets this weird, overwhelming feeling where like the car noises and stuff are amplified. And all of a sudden the face blows off the ground to reveal a large hole in the ground, the cave. And it starts like glowing the blue light. And like she looks down at it and smiles.
It makes no fucking sense. Makes no sense. It makes less sense than the sudden transition earlier that we didn't even fucking mention of that old woman who went up to the bell tower with her husband so they could start ringing the bell to alert people they need help. And it cuts away, and then it cuts back, and that old woman's beating the bell with her husband's decapitated head without any explanation at all. It's as fucking weird as that. This ending, again, I can kind of see what they're trying to go for. They talk about how the church is going to be rebuilt. Of course it is. Of course it is. The church is going to be rebuilt. Thank God the one part of the church was salvaged. And so now they're going to rebuild it. And because, of course, they have to ensure that this force of evil, if it ever tries to get out again, that it will not be able to. Though I'm thinking if this whole fucking church collapse, don't you think they're going to discover that fucking giant pit of bodies in there? Like, I'm thinking this is going to have to be discovered eventually, unless someone's not doing their fucking work. Whoever's building this church is not digging deep enough, because there seems to be a huge pit of bodies down there that's trying to get out. But yeah, so she seems okay with it. She sees that blue light. Maybe it ties into the fact earlier that she was, in the form of that other child who seemed to be connected with the group of individuals that were massacred. I wonder if they're trying to full circle that and make it almost part of her journey, that she kind of wants this to happen, that she's invested in it. But that is not explained. It does not make any sense to me. If that's the goal there, is to make it seem like she's kind of somehow tied to this or part of this. You gotta give me more breadcrumbs to follow. I can't go in that blind. I do not understand what that conclusion is supposed to represent here.
Your guess is as good as Mace. I guess that was my thought too as well. When she smiles, I was like, okay, so she may be, if she really is a reincarnation or connected to the witches that were slaughtered at the beginning of the film, because we do see her earlier in the film as a villager get killed. She would be happy, I guess, that demons are going to come out and take over the world. I don't fucking know. It's just, I don't know. At the end of the day, am I glad I saw the film? Yeah, I am. Would I watch it again? No. I don't have any desire to watch this film again. It's just too many loose ends, too many unrealistic reactions by characters. Character relationships are unbelievable and authentic. Don't feel, I don't buy it. And then, for this build up to this ending that I thought was going to be really fucking cool, really bloody, really fast-paced, action-packed. It just goes kerplunk. And I'm sorry, a couple of really good set-piece visuals does not save it for me.
Not at all. Not at all. This is a film that I have really no interest in ever watching again. And the moments that I was anticipating, like they looked cool, but like I definitely did not get what I wanted out of them at all. So I am really disappointed. This is a film I was really excited for. I think I'd built it up in my head a lot, and it just did not give me what I needed. So I'm bummed. I'm bummed. I don't think I'll ever watch this again. No reason to on my end. But when it does have some of these practical effects, I'll say there are a few moments that actually were rather breathtaking. Um, God, I wish I got more. I really do. It was a big letdown.
I had high hopes because of the director. I mean, I love Stage Fright to death. I think Stage Fright is about as perfect of a slasher film as you can get. And then for him to follow it up with this, just this mess, definitely disappointing. But
Yeah.
hey, we got to watch it. We got to say we watched The Church, and I'm sure, Roger, we've enticed some of our listeners to watch it for a first time. I'm sure there are listeners who have never seen The Church and are going to watch it specifically because we're covering it. So guys, you have to let us know if The Church was a first time watch for you. What are your thoughts on it? Do you agree with us, or are you actually a fan of it? Did you find it, let us know. We need to know your thoughts on The Church, because this is one that definitely I had some hopes for, and they were unfortunately not met. But Roger, I believe that my next pick, I'm pretty sure, is one you've never seen. And I hope it's going to be a little bit of a better experience as a first time watch for you. And it's a film that I wanted to cover a while ago, but for some reason, this film had not been available on streaming or anything for years. And it finally is back on streaming. It's on Tubi, it's on Pluto, it's on Prime. And I need us to cover it before it goes away again, because it's one you got to experience. It's from 2012, so it's newer, even though that's over 10 years ago, which is just ridiculous to think about. And it is the 2010 found footage film The Bay, directed by Barry Levinson, who won an Oscar for Best Director for Rain Man, directed Bugsy, directed a lot of great films. This came out in 2012, and all I'm going to say is I believe this film should have made a much bigger impact and splash than it did. I know you're not always a big fan of found footage, but I think this one may be one that you are going to possibly be a little bit blown away by.
I feel that I may have either miscommunicated something with you, or maybe we were talking about a different title, because not only have I seen The Bay, I love The Bay.
Oh my God.
I've definitely seen this film. I love it. It's not like any other movie. It horrifies me, the idea of ever having a parasite attached to my tongue. Those little fucking things that it's based on.
Oh my God,
I believe that's going to happen to me when I eat fish now or go into the sea. So it haunts me to this day. I've absolutely seen The Bay. I'm very excited to talk about it because it's been a while since I watched it.
Okay, see, I take that back, listeners. Maybe I don't know Roger as well as I thought I did, because I would have totally bet money he had never seen The Bay. But I'm glad you have, and I'm glad you love it, because it's going to be a much more, I think, positive, energetic conversation next week when we discuss The Bay, because it is a film that when I saw it the first time, Roger, it blew me away. I'm a fan of found footage films, but I feel like a lot of found footage films just do the same formula over and over and over again. And where I'm fine with it if they do it well. This one just knocked it out of the park with something completely different. So I'm super glad it's back on streaming, and I was like, we have to do it before they take it off. So we are doing The Bay.
Yeah, I am very excited. I think it'll be a very fun one to cover. Very different from the last few titles we touched on. A much needed reprieve, dare I say. And I don't think we're going to be going near anything church related anytime soon after the bad taste that last title left in our mouths. But we will be going into the Bay. So let's jump in. Listeners, come join us. Make sure you watch it too. If you haven't seen it, you need to watch it if you're going to listen.
Oh, absolutely. And with that, thank you for tuning in, and we will be back next week.
Yes, we will. We will be back soon. Thank you so much, and good night.
Night.